Today we will start the classification of signals. Okay. Now the first classification is the static and dynamic systems. Now static systems are those systems or it is also known as the memoryless systems. Okay. If the output of the system at any instant of time t depends on the input signal at the same time instant t but not the past or future inputs, then it is called the static or memoryless system. Okay, that means output is only dependent on the present input signal. Okay, no future or past input signals. Otherwise the systems are called the dynamic or memory systems. Okay, dynamic systems are also known as the memory systems. Let us give you some examples that will clarify better. Suppose yt equal to a xt. A is any constant. It is one example of static system. Another example is txt plus suppose 6x cube t, like this. These two are the static systems. Why these are static systems? Suppose you can consider t equal to minus any value starting from minus infinity, up to plus infinity. If you choose suppose minus 2, minus 1, 0, 1, 2 seconds, etc. If you put all of them here, suppose you are choosing this system. Okay, so y1 is equal to ax1. See that the present output is y1, y at t equal to 1 second. That depends only on x equal to x at t equal to 1 second. Okay, that means it is dependent only on the present input. Okay, no past or future inputs. Again, you can verify for all those values this system will be dependent on only the present input, not the past input. For it is valid for this system also. Now let me give you some examples of the dynamic systems. Yt equal to txt plus 3xt square. This is one dynamic system. How I will explain. Again another system, yt equal to xt plus 3 xt minus 2. These two are the examples of dynamic or memory systems. Why? Suppose you are putting these values here. If you put that, suppose I am considering the first one, you are finding out the y2. That means value of the output at t equal to 2 seconds. That will give you x2 plus 3 x4. So now see that output at t equal to 2 is dependent on first this one, that means input at t equal to 2, and another term is there which is input at t equal to 4, which is a future sample or the future value of the signal. So it is dependent on the future input signal. So it is a dynamic system. In this case you also verify that will dependent on either past or future depending on the value of the chosen t. Okay, so this is the concept of static and dynamic systems. Now I am going to the next kind of classification, that is time variant, time invariant and time variant systems. What are the time variant and time invariant systems? Time invariant systems are those systems in which input output relationship does not change with time. Okay, that means if the input output relationship in a system does not vary with the time, then it is called the time invariant system. Otherwise the systems are time variant. Now question is that if you have a system, how can you verify that whether that system is time variant or time invariant. The procedure is that suppose input of the system is xt and output may be yt. Okay, first procedure is to provide a arbitrary input xt, give a delay, that means time delay of amount, suppose m second. You will obtain xt minus m. You are providing delay of amount m, that will give you time shift t minus m. Okay, after that provide that time delayed version into the given system. Okay, so that will give you some output. You can have that output depending on the system operation. It is number one case. Number two case, you have to verify. Again, take that same input, initially provide that input to the system, okay, and obtain the output. Output will be yt. Okay, and after that provide the delay, and by delaying that output of the system you will obtain another output. Okay, so see that here the operations are just reversed. Initial case you are providing first delay, after that you are providing that signal to the system and you are getting the output y1t. And second case, first you are providing the input directly to the system, after getting the output you are providing the delay to that output and you are getting y2t. Condition is that if y1t is equal to y2t, if you found that, then you can say it is time invariant. That means position of the delay will not change the system input output relationship. That is the time invariant definition. And if you found that y1t is not equal to y2t, that means position of the time delay is actually affecting the input output relationship, then it is called the time variant system. Now let me let me show you some examples. Example 1, suppose you have to verify yt equal to 2txt. It is your given system's input output relationship. You have to verify that whether this system is time variant or invariant. Okay, so check accordingly. Provide xt and pass it through a delay block. You will get xt minus m amount of delay you have provided, and after that if you pass through this system will do this operation. That means on this system will do the operation y1t will be just 2t x t minus 1. Why? Because system is doing whatever the input, system will multiply the input by 2t. Okay, so input is x t minus m, system is there, so output will be 2t multiplied by x t minus m. Now do the reverse. Now first provide system operation, that means system is there, so what will be the output of the system? Simple, this one will be the output 2txt, and after that provide the delay. What will happen? Delay means it will just replace t minus m in place of t. So what will you obtain? It is nothing but the delayed version of the output, delayed version of the yt, that is nothing but 2t minus m x t minus m. Okay, are they equal? No, they are not equal. That means you can conclude that y1t and y2t are not equal. So simply it is time variant. Okay, now example 2, suppose you have another system 2x e to the power xt. It is your given system and you have to verify that whether the system is time variant or invariant. Proceed in the similar way. Xt, provide the delay what will you obtain? X t minus m amount of delay. After that, if you do the system operation, you will find that your final output will be system operation on the delayed version. Simple system operation is defined here. It will take the exponential of the input, after that multiply by 2. So output will be 2 e to the power x t minus m. Simple. After that, do the reverse thing. That means first directly provide that input to the system, that will give you the output, this one. Now provide the delay of amount m. What will be that? Now y2t will be the delayed version of the output. Delayed version of the output, just give the delay here. What will you obtain? It is x t minus m. In place of t, you are putting t minus m. So simply you can observe that for both the cases, y1t and y2t, they are same. So you can conclude it is time invariant. So by using this particular method, you can check whether a given system is time variant or invariant. Next classification is that linear and non-linear system. As I mentioned earlier, if a system obeys the principle of superposition, then the system is the linear system. Otherwise, system is non-linear system. Okay. The method is that if you have two sets of inputs, x1t and x2t. Okay. Now, suppose you are first multiplying both of these individual inputs by two different constants, a1 and a2. So what will you obtain? a1 x1t and a2 x2t. Okay. After that, just simply add them. What will you obtain? Linear combination of the two input signals. Linear combination of two input signals, and put this linear combination of input signals at the input of the system. Okay, that will give you one set of output, that is equal to system operation on the linear combination of the input signals. It is one case. Next, do again take two separate signals, x1t and x2t. Initially you provide them as input to the system simultaneously. Okay, so what will be the output for first one? Output will be the system operation on x1t, and output of the second one will be system operation on the x2t. Okay, after that, multiply these two outputs by a1 and a2 respectively. What will you obtain? a1 system operation on x1t and a2 system operation on x2t. Okay, after that, add them. What will you obtain? The final output, y2t. So what is it? It is equal to a1 hx1 system operation on the first input, a2 hx2. So what is it? It is, this particular operation is just reverse of the earlier one. In the first case, you are first taking the linear combination of two inputs and provide that as the input of the system, and you are getting the output. So it will be that. And second case, individually you directly provide those inputs to the system and getting the outputs first. After that, you are making the linear combination of the outputs. Okay, if you find that your y1t is equal to y2t, then actually they are obeying the principle of superposition. That means if a system provides if a system obeys the principle of superposition, then it is the linear system. That means in that case, individual inputs will provide linear combination of individual outputs are equal to system operation on the linear combination of the inputs. If you find that, it is linear, but if you find that they are not equal, then obviously it will be non-linear. Let me clarify this concept, or how can you check, if you want to know that how can you check whether a given system is linear or non-linear, then you have to follow these particular examples. Suppose the first example is yt equal to xt square. Okay, for that case, first let me suppose that you have two sets of inputs, x1t and x2t. For the first input, y1t will be equal to, that means the system's response will be equal to x1t square, and the second case, for x2t, system's response is another system response, that is the x2t square. And if you make the linear combination of these two outputs, what will you obtain? Linear combination of the outputs is simple. So first make it. After that, you do the reverse thing. That means first make linear combination of the inputs. Suppose linear combination of the inputs is notified by x3t. So it is the linear combination of the inputs. And now put this input as a whole as the input of the system. So what will be the output now? Output will be, suppose it is y dash t. Output will be now the system operation on the x3t, this one. Okay, so put that value here, system operation on x, linear combination of the inputs, this one. So individually just use the distributive law. You can have linear system operation of x1t plus a2 system operation on x2t. Now a1 system operation on x1t, what is it? It should be equal to x1t square. And secondly, system operation on x2t, as per the definition of the signal, it will be x2t square. Okay, now look at here, x1t square means it is y1t, and x2t square means it is y2t. So you can say it is equal to yt. So y dash t is equal to yt. So it is following the superposition theorem or principle of superposition. So you can say that it is a linear system. Secondly, you take another system yt equal to x square t. For that case, follow the similar steps. Take two sets of input, x1t. For x1t, individual output will be equal to system operation on x1t. That means as per the definition, this will be x1t square. y2t will be equal to system operation on x2t, that is x2 square, this one. Okay, so now make the linear combination of the outputs, a1 y1t plus a2 y2t. Okay, so if you put them, y1t means this one, y1t means x1 square t, and a2 y2t means x2 square t. This is equation number 1. After that, make the linear combination of the input signals. Okay, and put that input signal as the input of the system. So what will you obtain? Your output will be the system operation on x3t. Okay, so system operation on a1 x1t plus a2 x2t. Now see that as a whole this one is the system, input of the system. So output will be system operation. Here it is defined as any input xt. If you provide as the input, xt is provided as the input, output will be x squared t. Now see that here input is provided as a1 x1 plus a2 x2. So what will be the output? a1 x1t plus a2 x2t. As per this definition, it should be equal to whole square. Okay, so now if you find out a1 x1 square t a2 square x square t plus 2a1 a2 x1 t x2 t, clearly you can see that this one is not equal to this one. So you can easily say that it is not equal to yt. So you can conclude it is nonlinear system. Okay, so this is how you can check whether a given system is linear or non-linear by just checking whether the system is obeying the principle of superposition or not. Next type of classification is the causal and non-causal systems. Okay, let me first define the causal systems. A system is causal if the output of the system at any instant t depends only on the present input, past inputs and past outputs. Okay, but does not depends on the future inputs and outputs. That means causal systems output will be dependent only on either present input or and past inputs or and past outputs. Okay, so present, past input outputs are allowed, but future input outputs are not allowed. Okay, those are called the causal systems. If any system's output depends on either future inputs or future outputs, then the systems are called the non-causal systems. Remember. Okay, so if there is any dependence on the future input or outputs, then the system is the non-causal, otherwise system is causal. So you have to now check check a given system is either causal or non-causal by using some examples. Before that, let me tell you that one particular important note, that is, a system is causal only when its impulse response ht is 0 for t less than 0. That means if the impulse response of the system is a causal signal, then the system is causal. Otherwise, the system will be non-causal. Okay, it is a very important note. By just observing the impulse response, you can say that whether the system is causal or non-causal. Now, let me come into the first example that will clarify the conception of causality and non-causality. Suppose your given system is yt equal to xt minus xt minus 1. Okay, it is your given system. You have to check for causality whether it is causal or non-causal. For that case, just draw first one table. First column is the t, that means the time instant. Second column is the yt. You have to find out the output of the signal for different time instants. And third one is the remark. Okay, suppose you are taking different time instants at both sides of the origin. That means origin is the t equal to 0. You have to take some time instants which are negative time instants and some time instants which are positive. Suppose I am starting from minus 2 seconds. You have to check minus 1 second, you have to check 0 second, 1 second, 2 second, etc. That is enough. Okay, so now for t equal to minus 2 second, what will be the output? Y minus 2. Now put here t equal to minus 2, x minus 2, x minus 2 minus 1, that means minus 3. Now tell me, t equal to minus 2. Now consider this one as the reference. It is your present. Okay, minus 2 is your present. Now input signal, now the right side of it, that means this signal output value at t equal to minus 2 is dependent on input value at t equal to minus 2, that is, it is the present input value, and it is also dependent on t equal to minus 3. Okay, that means t equal to minus 3 means is it past or future? If t equal to minus 2 is the present, then t equal to minus 3 means some earlier 1 second earlier case, that means it is the past. Okay, so it depends on, for this particular time instant, output is depends on the present input signal as well as the 1 second past input signal. So present and past, so it is passing as the cosine signal, no future dependence. For the second case, t equal to minus 1 second, so now your reference is t equal to minus 1 second, it is your present. Okay, so see that as per your definition it will be t equal x minus 1, that is the present input, and x minus 2, it is 1 second past input. Okay, again it is passing 0 x 0 x minus 1. See that it is the present input as per your new reference t equal to 0, it is present input, it is 1 second past input. So it is again passing as the causal conditions. Y equal to 1, x 1, x see that 1 minus 1, that will be 0. Now your reference is t equal to 1 second. With respect to that, this one is the present input signal, this one is 1 second past input signal, again passing. And if you check y2, it is your present input signal, it is your 1 second past input signal. So all cases this particular signal is passing the conditions of causality, so it is a causal signal. Now check another example. Example 2, suppose your system is yt equal to xt plus 2x3 minus t. Okay, xt plus 2x3 minus t. Again draw the table. First column is t, second column is yt, third column is remark. Okay, suppose I am starting from minus 1 0 1 2 in this way. Okay, for t equal to minus 1 second, y minus 1, t equal to minus 1 is your present time instant. What will be the output? X minus 1, x minus 1, that means as per your reference it is your present input. But the second case, 2x, in place of t you have to put the minus 1, so what will you obtain? x4. It is the value of the input signal at t equal to 4 second, but your present time instant is t equal to minus 1 second. So what is it? It is a future input signals value. Okay, so this, due to this term, this particular system is not obeying the condition of causality, because condition of causality clearly says that the output of the system cannot depends on either future input or future output, but this one is the future input signal, so it is not obeying. But for t equal to 0, you can say y0 is equal to x0, it is the present input, plus if you put 0 here, see that again x3, you are considering t equal to 0 as your present instant, but output is depends on x3 also. That means value of the input signal at t equal to 3, which is future. So it is not obeying. In this case, in this way, you can verify all the time instants. x1 it is the present, x3 minus 1 that is 2. Again it is the future signal value, input signal value. So it is not obeying the condition of causality. So clearly you can say that. Now this particular case, just look at this particular case, it is obeying the condition of causality. See that present instant is t equal to 2 second, input, this input instant is the present input, so it is obeying, and this input instant is the past input, so it is also obeying the condition of causality. So remark is right, but since this remark is not there for all the cases, that means for all the time instants the system is not obeying the condition of causalities. That's why you have to conclude it is as non-causal. If it is causal, then for all instants of time it should obey the constant conditions of causality, but in these cases for 3 of these assigned instants these are not following or obeying. So you can conclude that it is a non-causal system. Okay, in this way you can verify different given systems whether it is that given system is causal or non-causal. Now next kind of classification is that stable system and unstable system. Now what is stable, what is unstable? Before that, first let me tell you that or let me introduce one particular term, BIBO, stable. BIBO, stable. What does it mean? BI means bounded input, bounded output. Okay. BIBO stability means if a system is if a system produces bounded output for each and every bounded input signal, then those systems are called the BIBO stable or BIBO stable. Now what is bounded? Bounded means suppose you have a signal xt, you have to check what is its magnitude. If the magnitude is lower than a particular value which is less than infinity, that means if the magnitude of the signal is finite, then you can say for all t, then you can say it is a bounded signal. BIBO stable system means if you have input as a bounded, that should provide you a output which is also bounded. That means its magnitude should be lower than a value which is less than infinity for all t. That means, again I am repeating, BIBO stability means the systems where if you provide any bounded input signal, at the output you will obtain another bounded output signal. Okay, so no unbounded output can be obtained from that stable system if the input is bounded. That is the stability or BIBO stability. But unstable means though you provide bounded input, at the output you can have unbounded signal. Okay, so those are the unbounded or unstable systems. Some examples of bounded signals. Some examples of bounded signals are step signals, impulse signals, decaying exponential signals. Okay, and unbounded signals examples are ramp signals, increasing exponential signals, etc. Now let me introduce the condition of stability. Condition of stability for any continuous time system is that the integration of the magnitude of its impulse response starting from minus infinity to plus infinity should be bounded. If your impulse response obeys this condition, then the system is bivostable. Okay, that is the condition. Now how can you prove it? Proof of this particular stability condition. Suppose you have a system H. If you provide unit impulse signal as the input, at the output you should obtain the impulse response. Okay, it is known. Again, take that system. If you provide any arbitrary signal at the input, remember that you will obtain one output which should be convolution between its impulse response and that arbitrary input. Again, I am repeating, thus any system is characterized by its impulse response. That means if you provide any unit impulse at the input, at the output you will get its impulse response. It is unique, okay, for any system. But if you provide any arbitrary input at the input of that system, at the output you will obtain one arbitrary output depending on that input. Okay, now output will be output will be related with the input in this way. That means output will be now the impulse response convolution of input signal. What is convolution? Remember that convolution is a new kind of linear operation. Okay, I will discuss the convolution later in this class. Just at this moment, remember that convolution means this operation. It is notified by this star sign, and analytically convolution is this particular integration. That means h tau x t minus tau d tau. Here tau is the dummy variable of integration. Okay, convolution means this particular integration. Remember at this moment. After that I will carry out details of the convolutions later in this class. Now see that if it is the input output relationship, that means output is related to the input by this way, then just find out the magnitude of the output. Magnitude of the output will be, you can say it should be the magnitude of this integration. Okay, now as per the property of modulus, you can say it will be inside that integration, inside of that integration. Okay, again by applying the property of the modulus, you can say that modulus of x multiplied by y should be equal to modulus of x multiplied by modulus of y. So write down in this way, modulus of h tau multiplied by modulus of x t minus tau d tau. Okay, it is equation number 2. Now you have this condition as the equation number 2. Now consider your input signal xt is bounded. If it is bounded, then you can say that modulus of xt should be less or equal to some value mx, suppose, which is less than infinity. It is the bounded case. Okay, now if you shift that signal in the time domain, if you shift that signal, that means if you are providing one delay, time delay of amount tau, if you take the modulus, you are doing the time operation, you are not disturbing the amplitude of that signal. That means it should also be, or it should also have the same amplitude. That means its magnitude should be lower or equal to that mx value, and it is less than infinity. Okay, so that means a signal, if it is bounded, then its shifted version will be also bounded. Okay, now from this one and this equation number 3, if you compare them, then can I write modulus of yt is equal to, just consider the equality here, just consider the equality, that means this modulus of x t minus tau is equal to mx, suppose. So here if you put mx, then this mx do not have any dependence on tau, it is a constant value, so mx can be taken out of the integration, so it is equal to h tau modulus d tau. Okay, now in order to obtain yt less than infinity, that means your ultimate condition is that output should be bounded in order to be the system be the stable. Okay, so output has to be bounded for this bounded input, so that means this one should be bounded. That means from that you can say since it is already less than infinity, that means individually this should be also less than infinity. That means you can conclude that integration of this one should be also less than infinity. Since this factor is already less than infinity, it is already defined here, so this factor has to be also less than infinity, otherwise the multiplication of these two will not be infinity. One finite number multiplied by another finite number will be a finite number. One finite number multiplied by infinite number will be infinite number, so condition will not be fulfilled, so it should be also be finite. Okay, now replacing tau equal to t, you can write minus infinity to plus infinity ht, that is the impulse response modulus dt should be less than infinity. That was the condition which is proved here. Okay, so for a system being the bivostable, your impulse response of that system should follow this particular equation. Now let me have an example. Okay, suppose given that a system's impulse response is e to the power 4 ut. Okay, e to the power 4 ut, that means you can easily write that it is a causal signal, or it is a causal system, because see that this impulse response is causal, means system is also causal, so it is equal to that for t greater or equal to 0. Now verify that. What about this integration? ht modulus dt. Okay, now see that minus infinity up to 0 it is not required, because it is only defined for t greater or equal to 0, so your limit of the integration will be 0 to infinity. Okay, in place of this one put this value, modulus of this will be the same, this one. Okay, dt, and now do the integration, it will give you 40 by 4 infinity to 0, that will give you infinity minus 1 by 4, that is tending to infinity. So this particular thing is not obeying the condition of bivostability, so you can say it is unstable. Now it was the example number 1. Now you do the example number 2. Suppose ht is now e to the power minus 40 ut. Okay, so you can say that e to the power minus 40 for t greater or equal to 0. Do the same thing, verify whether this one is less than infinity or not. Equal to, it should start from 0 again because it is the causal signal, so modulus of ht means this one, e to the power minus 40 dt. Okay, do the integration, e to the power minus 40 by minus 4, 0 to infinity. So first term e to the power minus infinity, that should be 0, and next term it will be 1 by 4. So it is 1 by 4, which is less than infinity. That means it is finite. So it is obeying the condition of stability. Simply you can write it is obeying the condition of stability. So it is a stable system. Okay. In this way you can check whether a system is stable or unstable by checking this condition of its impulse response. Now another classification is that feedback system and non-feedback system. Okay, feedback systems are those in which the output depends on past output, past input, present input. Okay, that means past and present input outputs are allowed for the case of the feedback systems, but for the non-feedback systems, output can be only dependent on present and past inputs, but not past outputs. Remember that feedback systems can be dependent on past outputs as well as past and present inputs, but non-feedback systems cannot be dependent on past outputs. It can be dependent on only present input and past input. Okay, and now feedback systems can be represented as those general equation which a0 n to the power n yt a1 n minus d n minus 1 dt n minus 1 yt, in this way up to a n yt, etc. Okay, so these derivative terms of the outputs are actually notifying the past outputs. Okay, and these terms are the b0 dm tn xt plus b1 m minus 1 tn minus 1 xt, etc., and last one will be the bm xt. These derivatives are representing the past inputs and this one is representing the present input. Okay, for feedback systems, both the derivative terms of the output as well as inputs will be present. That means the system output will be dependent on both the past and present inputs, as well as it can be dependent on the past outputs also. But for the non-feedback systems, remember that output will be only dependent on the past and present inputs, not the past outputs. That means derivative terms of the inputs will be present only. No derivative terms of the outputs will be present. See that there is only yt, there is no derivative term with respect to yt. So these are the non-feedback system, and these are all about the classification of the systems. Now I will go to the convolution of continuous time signals. Convolution of a continuous time signals. Okay, as I mentioned earlier, if you have two signals, suppose x1t and x2t, you have to do some operation on those, and that is the convolution operation. It can be defined as, suppose after convoluting you are getting a new signal x3t, it should be equal to minus infinity up to infinity x1 lambda, lambda is the dummy variable of integration, x2 t minus lambda d lambda. It is defined in this way. Okay, convolution operation is defined in this way and denoted by the star sign, x1t star x2t, lambda is the dummy variable, remember that. Now how can you find out the response of a LTI continuous time system by means of convolution? Remember that if you have a system, continuous time system having impulse response of ht, if you provide an input of xt, at the output you will obtain the convolution of the impulse response and the system's input. Remember that it is a very important property of the convolution. That means for any continuous time LTI system, the output of the system will be convolution of the input and the impulse response. That means you can say yt should be equal to minus infinity to plus infinity h lambda h t minus lambda d lambda. Okay, now let us have some properties of convolution. Properties. Convolution. Properties of convolutions are very easy. Number one, commutative property. Okay, that means this convolution operation is commutable. That means x1 convolution x2 is same as x2 convolution x1. Okay, next property is the associative property. Associative property suggests that if you first convolute x1 and x2 by using this bracket and after that convolute that result with x3, another signal, it is same as first convolute x2 and x3 and after that the result will be convolute to x1t. This order is not important, it is associated. Okay, associative. Okay, the third one is that distributive property. Distributive property means convolution operation is distributive over the addition or subtraction operation. Okay, see that it is the distributive property. Remember that all these properties can be proved very easily by using this formula and all other properties of the discrete time, continuous time signals, and you have to carry out those proofs, or you have to prepare those proofs from the book of Nagurkani by yourself. Okay, I am not going to those things because those are already given in your book. Okay, so remember you have to prepare those proofs by yourself. Now the interconnection of the systems, interconnections of the continuous time systems. First one is the cascade connection. Cascade means, you know, that series connection. Suppose you have two systems, one having the impulse response of h1t, another having the impulse response of h2t, and you have connected both of them in series or cascade. Okay, so you are providing xt here, intermediately you are getting y1t, at the output ultimately you are getting yt. Okay, so if you consider, you have to have one equivalent system which is equivalent to the series of these two individual systems, that will be equivalent to the convolution of these individual impulse responses. Okay, if you provide the same input, at the output you will obtain the same output. That means if two individual systems are connected in cascade having the impulse responses h1t and h2t respectively, it is equivalent to a single system which has the impulse response of h1t convolution h2t. Okay, it can be proved. Just go through the proof which is given in the book. Next is the parallel connection. For the parallel connection, suppose you have one input signal which is simultaneously provided or in parallel provided to different two systems which has H1t and H2t as their impulse responses respectively. First one is giving you the Y1t as the output, second one is giving you the Y2t as the output. Now add them and you can get the ultimate output. Okay, this particular parallel system can be equivalently represented by a system which has the addition of impulse responses, which has the impulse response which is the addition of the impulse responses of the individual systems, okay, that will behave in the same way. That means if you provide the same input and the output will be the same. Okay, that means in parallel connection, in case of the parallel connection of two continuous time systems, the impulse responses will be added, and for the series connection they will be convoluted. You have to remember that. You can also prove this property also for the parallel connection. Just go through the book. Okay, now suppose I am going to carry out some examples. Convolution can be carried out by using either analytical method or graphical method. I will show you both. Okay, first I am just trying to demonstrate one analytical method example. Okay, how can you analytical, by using analytical method, how can you find out the convolution? Suppose your example is x1t, one signal is 2ut suppose, and another signal is just ut. Okay, you have to find out the convolution between x1t and x2t. Now how can you do that? Just consider it should be the limit of the lambda should be starting from 0 up to t. Okay, x1 tau, just I am using the formula of the convolution, t minus lambda d lambda. Now see that this one is nothing but an unit step signal multiplied by 2, and this one is shifted version of the unit step signal. But for all those cases the amplitudes are constant, whatever it is shifted version or the original version. Okay, for the first case limits are 0 to t. For the first case its amplitude should be equal to 2, and for the second case its amplitude should be equal to simple 1. Okay, d lambda. So do the integration, 2 will be at the outside and integration of 1 will be the lambda starting from 1 to t, that will give you the 2t. So it is one simple example of the convolution in the analytical method. Secondly, suppose you have given that you have to determine the step response. Remember, determine unit step response of a system whose impulse response is given ht equal to 3t ut, suppose it is given. Now what does it mean? What does it mean by this problem? See that you have to find out system impulse response is given to you. You have to find out the unit step response. What does it mean? Your input signal should be a unit step function or unit step signal, for which you have to find out the output or the response. Okay, and given that your impulse response is this one, that means your input signal xt is ut. Okay, it is equal to 1 for t greater or equal to 0 and 0 for t less than 0. And another signal which is given as the impulse response, which is 3t ut. What does it mean? It is equal to 3t for t greater or equal to 0 and 0 for 3 less than 0. This is one causal signal. Okay. Now, how can you find out the step response? That means the output of the system, you have to just convolute xt with ht. That means now it should start from minus infinity up to infinity. Okay, h lambda x t minus lambda t lambda. Okay, now look at here, both of these xt as well as ht, both are actually the causal signals. There is no value for t less than 0, so your lower limit will be 0 now, and upper limit it will be existed only up to t, not up to the plus infinity. Okay, so your upper limit will be t, any time instant for which you are finding out the convolution or the response. Okay, so it should be ht as given, and this one is actually, this one is ut minus lambda, is not it? And ut minus lambda is always 1 for this time period under consideration, so it should be equal to 1 d lambda. So now 0 to t, in place of h lambda it should be equal to 3 lambda, because ht is equal to 3t for t greater or equal to 0, d lambda. Now just find out the integration. It should be equal to 3 at the outside, lambda square by 2, it should be 0 to t, limit will be 0 to t. So what will be the value? Output will be equal to 3 by 2 t square for t greater or equal to 0, for t greater or equal to 0, because individual signals are existed for only the t greater or equal to 0, so output will be also existed for t greater or equal to 0. That means it can be written as 3 by 2 t square ut. Okay, so it is the procedure by which you can analytically calculate the convolution between two signals. Okay, now let me demonstrate one example of solving the convolution by using the graphical method. Suppose you have given two different signals. First one is this one, existed from starting from 0 up to 2 seconds. Okay, all the values are 1. Next one is this kind of signal x2, for 0 to 1 second it has the value of 1, and from 1 to 2 second it has the value of -1. Okay, so you have to find out, you have to graphically find out the convolution between these two signals. What are the steps? First step, these are the convolution, it is the analytical formula of the convolution. What you have to do? Step 1, remember, step 1, what you have to do? You have to first change this t variable into lambda. Okay, so I'm just writing this step here, okay, in order to skip the volume of this particular problem. Just in place of t you put lambda for both the cases. That means it is becoming x1 lambda, it is becoming x2 lambda. Okay, it is step 1. Next, step 2. Step 2, fold this signal, second signal. Folding means, you know that you have to make it x2 minus lambda. Okay, what will be the signal? You know that what is folding operation? Folding operation means just the time reversal or the mirroring operation. x2 minus lambda, now it should be 0, 1, 2, 3, etc. It is the -1, -2, -3 in this way. Okay, folding means your signal will be now mirror image of the actual signal. Okay, its amplitude will be undisturbed from -1 to 1. These are the time instants, -1, -2. Okay, so second step is to fold the second signal and keep the original the first signal as it is. Okay, now what will be the third step? What will be the third step? Remember that convolution means, look at this equation or the integration. Convolution means it is trying to find out the common area between x1 and x2 by keeping one signal x1 fixed at certain point, or it is its original instance. X1 is fixed but x2 is shifted from right hand side to left hand side. That means x2 is shifted starting from -infinity up to +infinity. This total shifting, okay, this total shifting has to be done by using different values of t. Okay, now you have to do this shifting, but remember that whenever you are shifting this signal is the second signal, you are starting the shifting from -infinity, and in this way you are giving the right shift, and right shift it will be ended at +infinity. But for particular some time instant you will obtain the common between these two, but for all other time instants there will be no overlap between these two signals. Okay, when you will obtain the overlap between these two signals, then only you will get the value of the convolution, otherwise you will get zero value of the convolution. Okay, so now let me demonstrate. First consider again draw the first signal. Suppose see that you have now x2 minus lambda, and make a shift. X2 minus lambda has to be shifted to x2 t minus lambda. Okay, you have to introduce the shift of t units. First let me draw the shifted version of this one for t less than 0. Okay, after that I will consider all the possible values of t's. Draw the first one. It is the first one starting from 0, 1 up to 2, it is 3, etc. -1, -2, etc. and -3. It is the lambda axis. It is the x1 lambda. Okay, now just below that draw the second signal, but shifted by t second in this direction. Okay, that means the plus t shift means it is the time advance. Okay, it is the time advance. So it will be shifted again draw this portion. It is -1, -2, -3. Okay, so if your t is less than 0, that means the signal now starts somewhere from here. This point is associated with t. This point is associated with t minus 1, because you know that from here to here 1 unit time is there. Okay, t minus 1, and this point is associated with t minus 2. Okay, now look at these two signals. For the shifted version of the second one, where t is less than 0, there is no overlap between these two signals. Okay, as I mentioned, since there is no overlap, remember that x3t, or the convolution between x1t and x2t, that convolution or this particular integration should be equal to 0, since there is no overlap. Okay, so it is the first case. Next, draw the same thing, but here you have to consider your t value is starting from 0 up to 1. Okay, in the earlier case t value was always less than 0, but now I am considering the next interval starting from 0 to 1. Now let me clarify. Draw the first signal. Sorry, it should be drawn here. Draw the first signal first. x1 lambda. Okay, it should be like that, starting from 0, 1, 2. It is lambda axis. It is -1, -2, etc. Now draw the second signal, shifted version, and your shift should be, as I mentioned, it should be this. That means starting of the second signal should be in between 0 and 1, because I am considering this portion. Okay, -1, -2. So your second signal should start from in between 0 and 1, as the t value is chosen in between 0 and 1. So it should be like that. It is shifted here. Okay, now see that this time instant is t, this time instant is t minus 1, because the duration, this one is 1, and this time instant is t minus 2. Okay, now see that here if you compare these two signals vertically, within this portion there is a overlap. So this portion is overlapped with this portion. Okay, so now there will be some value of convolution. Okay, what will be the value? You can find by this way. x3t will be equal to, you are starting from -infinity up to t. Up to t you have to do the convolution, because you have reached now this point by shifting the second signal. Okay, up to t, x1 lambda, x2 t minus lambda d lambda. Now see that overlap is obtained in between only 0 to t. It is the t instant, as I mentioned, it is the t instant. So overlap is obtained in between 0 to t. So that's why your limit will be 0 to t only. And within this overlap region, that means 0 to t, value of the first signal is 1 and value of the second signal is also 1, d lambda. So what will be the integration? It will be lambda 0 to t, that is equal to t. Okay, this is equation number 1. Now again you have to shift the second signal. Now your t value should be 1 to 2. That means the second next interval. Okay, suppose I am drawing the signals. First signal is the x1 lambda. It should be kept fixed. It should be varied. It should not be shifted. 3, 4 lambda. Okay, and draw the second signal. It is -1, -2, etc. Second signal t minus lambda. Your t value should be lying in between 1 and 2. So draw the 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. It is the lambda axis. 1, 2, 3, 4, 0. Okay, so your second signal should start somewhere in between 1 and 2, as I defined your shift. So it is started from here. It should be ended somewhere here, and the negative portion is should be ended somewhere here. Here it is -1, -2, etc. Okay, this particular instant is t, this instant is t minus 1, this instant is t minus 2. Now verify. See that there are overlaps in between the first signal and second signal. This is the overlap, this is the overlap. Okay, so this is the overlap region, these are the overlap regions. Okay, so the convolution will exist here. Now try to find out the value of the convolution x3t. Now see that again minus infinity up to t, x1 lambda, x2 t minus lambda d lambda. So now see that overlap is started at t equal to 0, okay, and ended at t equal to t, is it? So your initial limit will be starting from 0 up to t. So x lambda x2 x1 lambda x2 t minus lambda dt. Now see that this particular overlaps have two different regions. From 0 to t minus 1, within this region, this signal has value of 1, but this signal has value of minus 1. Okay, so first consider this region starting from 0 to t minus 1. First signal has the value of 1, next signal has the value of minus 1, t lambda. Next, consider this region starting from t minus 1 ended at t. Okay, t minus 1 ended at t. For that case, both the signals have the same value, 1 and 1. So 1 multiplied by 1 d lambda. Now find out what will be the value. For that case, if you carry out these two integrations and put those limits, you will obtain that it is 2 minus t. Okay, 2 minus t. It is for t this region. Okay. Now consider the shift of time starting from 2 up to 3. Okay, again draw the first signal lambda 1 2 3 4 5 0 1 2 3 4 5. So first signal is like that, 1 x1 lambda. Second signal will be t minus lambda 1 2 3 4 5 0 1 2 3 4 5. Okay, so now your shift should be here, that means t should be starting from somewhere in between 2 and 3 as per your definition. Okay, so second signal is starting here, it should, first half should be ended here and the second half should be ended here. Okay, it is the minus 1, it is the plus 1. Okay, now look at here, it is your t, it is your 2, it is your t minus 2 and sorry t minus 1 and it is t minus 2. Now see that there are overlaps. This is one overlap in between this one, this is one overlap, another overlap is here. Okay, now you can write x3t. First consider the first overlap region, it is starting from t minus 2 ended at t minus 1, where the second signal has the value of minus 1, first signal has the value of 1. So starting from t minus 2 up to t minus 1, first signal has the value of 1, second signal has the value of minus 1 d lambda, plus next interval starts from t minus 1 ended at t equal to 2. See that, so it is, this overlap is only extended up to 2. So the limit should start from t minus 1 and ended at 2. Okay, so for that case both the signals has the value of 1. Now if you find out this integration by putting those limits, it will obtain, it is again 2 minus t. Okay, this value is for starting from 2 up to 3. Okay, let us now consider the next shift starting from 3 up to 4. The first signal starting from 1 2 3 4 5 etc. lambda, it is the first signal x1 lambda. Next signal x2 t minus lambda 1 2 3 4 5 0 1 2 3 4 5 lambda. Okay, so as per your shift region, the signals should start from here in between 3 and 4, and it should be like that. Okay, and this is your t, this is your t minus 1, this is your t minus 2. Now look at here, overlap exists only within this region. It is overlap, and within this region first signal has the value of 1, second signal has the value of minus 1. So overlap will start from t minus 2 and end at 2. So your convolution limit should be start from t minus 2 and ended up to 2. Okay, and the overlap, first signal should have the value of 1, second signal should have the value of minus 1. Okay, that will give you t minus 4, and it is equation number 4, and it is valid for minus 3 up to 4. Okay, now consider the next interval t starting from 4 to 5. For that case, if you draw the first signal, it will be like that: 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc., and it has a value of 1. And draw the second signal: 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, it is x2 t minus lambda. If you draw it, signal start will be from here in between 4 and 5. It will be like that. It is your t, it is your t minus 1, it is your t minus 2. Okay, now just observe these two, there is no overlap. There is no overlap means your convolution will be 0 within this region. And after that, if you shift the signal towards t greater than 4 for any value, if you shift the signal, there will be no overlap. Okay, there will be no overlap. That means you should not consider further overlaps. So now you can combine all those cases, combine all those shifted t values in order to define your convolution. Graphical form will give you this kind of solution. You will find 0 when t less than 0, the first case which we considered. Next we will find it is equal to t, just from the previous pages. For the shift of t starting from 0 to 1, it should have the value of 2 minus t for two different shifts, starting from 2 t equal t starting from 1 to 2 and 2 to 3. Okay, if you will get the same result. Okay, so that you can combine them, and you can write as a whole this range is starting from 1 to 3. If you have the next one, if you have the shift of t starting from 3 to 4, you will have this result. And again for this one you are getting the 0, that means t greater than 4. For all these cases you will get different formulas of the convolution equation. Okay, now it is the final result of the convolution. You can also draw the waveform or sketch the waveform from this particular equation, piecewise equation x3t. Suppose it is equal to t equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. If you carefully draw it, you will find that it will be a triangular signal. Within 0 to 1, the equation of the signal is t. Okay, so that means it will be 1. From 1 to 3, equation of the signal is 2 minus t. It will be like that. And from 3 to 4, that means within this region, equation of the signal is t minus 4. It will be like that. Actually there will be nothing here. Because after t greater than 0, t greater than 4, signal will be 0. Again for t less than 0, signal is 0. So your convolution will look like this waveform. Okay, so it is all about the convolution of two continuous time signals. you can use either analytical solution procedure or graphical solution procedure. But I think in examinations you will be asked to find the convolution by using either the question will specify that which method you should use. Okay, but in case of the competitive exams, you should not use the graphical method because there will be some time constraint. You always use the analytical method. Okay, so it is all about the continuous time signals and systems. From my next class I will start the transformations, that means Laplace transformation as well as the Fourier transformation of the continuous time signals, and consider about the frequency domain analysis. Okay, since then, thank you.